Hey guys, welcome back to True Crime with Christina. Tonight, we're stepping into one of the most disturbing and baffling cases in modern Japanese history. We are going to talk about the Setagaya family murders. It is an unresolved massacre where an entire family was brutally killed inside of their own home, and where the killer didn't rush out afterward. He stayed, he walked around, he ate food, he rested. He basically lived inside of the crime scene. This case is now 25 years old, and somehow it still refuses to give up its secrets. It is packed with forensic evidence that most investigators only dream of. There's DNA, there's fingerprints, clothing, personal belongings, and yet no arrest. No name, no face, only questions. This happened in a quiet neighborhood in the western Tokyo. The city is called Kamizo Shigaya. It was right beside the Soshigaya Park. It's the kind of neighborhood where nothing really happens. People are friendly, everybody knows each other, kids are playing outside. And when this happened, the city was prepping for the holiday season. Now let's talk about the family. Mikio Miyazawa was 44 years old. He was a corporate employee, hardworking, devoted to his family. And Yasuko Miyazawa, 41, was a loving mother, deeply involved in the community and in her children's lives. And they had two kids together, Nina, 8 years old, and Ray, 6 years old. They were happy, energetic, full of life, and unfortunately, they had a lot of plans that would never get the chance to unfold. On December 30th, 2000, the family went to bed quite early, like any other nights. No alarms, no fear, no reason to think this would be the last night of their lives. Sometime between 11:30 p.m. and 12:05 a.m., an unknown man entered the house. He didn't break down the door, he actually climbed. Investigators believe that he came through a second floor bathroom window facing the park. The screen had been removed and later found on the ground. Nearby, muddy footprints suggested that he had climbed over a fence first and then used the air conditioning unit as a step to get inside. Once in the house, he moved with purpose. And now I'm going to talk about the murders. So if you are not comfortable with that, I would suggest to skip the next 30 seconds. His first stop was Ray's bedroom. Ray was asleep when the killer entered, and instead of using a knife, despite having one, the man strangled him with his bare hands. Ray was the only victim killed this way. That detail has haunted the investigators ever since. Strangulation is intimate, personal, slow. It requires sustained pressure, eye contact, control. Why start this way? And then why did it escalate? Was it impulsive? Was it a sudden emotional surge? Or was it calculated? We don't know. And that uncertainty is part of what makes this case so chilling. Next, the killer encountered the father, Mikio. Evidence suggests that Mikio fought back, desperately trying to protect his family. During the struggle, the attacker stabbed him more than 10 times using a sashimi knife he had brought with him. At some point in the fight, the blade snapped and a fragment was later found lodged in Mikio's skull. Most killers would panic at that moment, but this one did not. Instead, he calmly went to the kitchen. and he grabbed a Sentokyu knife. Upstairs, Yasuko and Nina were attacked. Both were stabbed dozens of times. There is evidence suggesting that the mom, Yasuko, tried to shield Nina. Her body was positioned in a way that implies she was protecting her daughter during those final moments. Sadly, the violence wasn't quick, it wasn't efficient. It was ferocious, prolonged, and deeply personal. And yet, there was no clear motive. So the Miyazawas weren't wealthy. They had no known enemies, no criminal ties, no signs of conflict with anybody. Friends, neighbors, and family all described them as happy, stable, loving household, which makes the brutality even harder to understand. Now we reach the part of this case that truly defies logic. Usually, most killers flee after a crime. Most want distance from what they have done. But for whatever reason, this man stayed for hours. He didn't just linger around, he actually settled in. In one of the report, it says that he used the family computer, accessing the internet in the early morning hours. Some reports suggested the connection occurred around 10 a.m., but later investigators believed that this was probably accidental. It was probably triggered by Mikio's mother when she entered the house in shock later that morning. While inside of the home, the killer ate food from the fridge. He had melon and four ice cream bars. He drank 4 bottles of barley tea. He used the toilet and left feces unflushed in there. He treated his own injuries using the family's first aid supplies. And for whatever reason, he ransacked the entire bedrooms and he put plenty of documents and papers into the bathtub and the toilet. And when he finally left, there was no signs of panic, no rushed exit. It appears he left calmly, deliberately, and on his own terms. The question I have is why did he stay after? Like, was he resting? Was he waiting for someone to come in and kill? Was he reliving the crime? Or did he feel so comfortable, so in control that he decided to stay around and it felt like it was his home? Unfortunately, there's no answers to my questions. Here's what makes this case so frustrating. The killer left behind a overwhelming amount of evidence. And when I say overwhelming, I mean the list is long. He left blood, DNA at over 10 locations in the house. We have fingerprints and footprints. We have his clothing, his personal belongings, including a shirt, jacket, gloves, hat, hip bag. So one of the things that we need to know about the shirt that was found, it was a really rare shirt. That shirt was only sold 130 times and just a handful in Tokyo. Police tracked down 12 buyers. None matched. So is it somebody that bought the shirt and then gave it away to somebody or to a church and then somebody grabbed it from there? Um, Inside of the hip bag, investigators found some sand particles. So a forensic team analyzed it, and apparently it comes from Nevada, near Edwards Air Force Base. So that detail opened the door to some theories involving international travel or military connections. Another thing that we know is that the killer's blood type was type A. It is a mixed heritage showing that the maternal side is European and the paternal side is East Asian. So, this is a rare combination in Japan at the time. Despite all of this, no match, no suspect, no arrest. Hundreds of thousands of officers have worked this case. Thousands of tips have been investigated, and still nothing. So, really, the question is how does a case with this much evidence goes nowhere? Timing is everything. In 2000, Japan's DNA databases were extremely limited. Only individuals with prior criminal records were included. If the killer had never been arrested before, his DNA would simply float in limbo, unmatched, anonymous. Japan has historically been cautious about family DNA searches and forensic phenotyping. These are techniques that have cracked cold cases in other countries by identifying relatives or predicting physical traits. Unfortunately, Japan are not one of those countries that are using those techniques. The Miyazawa family, especially Mikio's mother, Setsuko, has repeatedly pushed for these methods to be used. She has spent decades fighting to keep the case alive, hoping modern science might finally succeed where the past could not. Even now, the police continue distributing posters and detailed models of the crime scene. They are looking for any smallest detail possible. If you have a memory about something or you remember buying this shirt from somebody, um, to come forward and say something. On the 25th anniversary, authorities renewed their plea, reminding the public that time doesn't erase relevance, it only hides it. At its core, this case isn't about DNA or evidence. It's about four lives: Mikio, Yasuko, Nina, and Rei. 25 years later, the Setagaya family murders remain one of Japan's most haunting mysteries. A crime scene overflowing with clues, a killer who stayed far too long, and answers that still refuse to surface. Thank you for being with me tonight. Until the next episode, be smart, be aware, and always keep an eye open.